Hello, good evening, and welcome to tonight's edition of Daily Record Hotline Live. It's Wednesday night, and we've got special guests in the house. Look, I know that Daniel Cause a selfish little man, and he's left me to hold the fort here. But what he's got this way of introducing guests when he pretends to be delighted. But I'm genuinely delighted to say Tam McManus joins us on tonight's show, as well as Fraser Wilson. Loads to discuss, boys. So we should crack right on with it. We'll come to Hibs and Dundee United and their chances of completing the job in Europe tomorrow night. But first of all, let's look back the way on last night. Tam, just shortly before we come on the show, I think a mate of yours, Andy Halliday, has sort of really eviscerated Russell Martin's tactics, which is quite something given that he's currently playing in the Premier League. Everybody's got a say on it. What's yours? What's your take? Are you having him? Are you having Russell Martin?
I think I'd probably have him at a different club.
Yeah.
I think he's a good
one
coach.
where you don't need to win every week.
Yes. Yep. I think when you get time to develop and go and develop players and develop a team, and I think he's a good coach. I don't think he's going to get the time to implement what he's wanting at Rangers. I think they're far too open and expansive. Another 27 shots against last night. I think Pilsen had 10 shots on target. Far too many. You're too open. And there was times where Rangers had 4v3s, 3v2s, and they mucked it up in the final third, and then they were countered. So I think we're coming up against a better team, and I think Bruges are a step up from the two previous opponents.
It's a big step
up. I don't think they're going to get away with conceding 27 shots in goal against Bruges. If they don't tighten up, they're going to get hammered in that tie, and it's something they've got to do. But you've seen it out Southampton, Jacko. He won't change. That's the way he plays. And there's no plan B. It's do plan A better. We've seen it with Mark Warburton and different other guys, but he's not going to change, and that's the way he plays. So he's going to go down on his own sword. But for me, early indications are he's not going to last at Rangers.
Tam, talk to me about, because I can't imagine that what he's seeing is actually what he wants to see. Therefore, the players can't be carrying it out the way that he is instructing them, because they are so slow getting the ball across the pitch. They've got good pace out in the wide areas, but they take 5 passes to get the ball out there, and by that time the space is gone, and I can't actually work it out. I can't work out if this is his fault or if the players just, I don't know, aren't buying into it or not carrying it out the way that he wants it.
I think it's going to take time. I think it's going to take time to get where he wants to get to, but I don't think you get that at Rangers. You don't get it at Celtic. You don't get it. There's a huge opportunity coming up. If Celtic beat Liverpool, I know Rangers are going to play St Mirren now, but there's a real opportunity for Celtic to end the league as a spectacle in at the end of August, start of September. Unacceptable for Rangers. Unacceptable for Rangers fans when you see the money they've spent. They've spent a lot of money. Spent more money than Celtic. So I don't think he's going to get the time to implement what he's trying to do. And you're right, he seems to be asking players to do things that they can't do. And they're getting away with it at the minute. Jack Butland's been outstanding in the European games. But when you come up against a higher calibre, and Bruges are that higher calibre, they're going to get punished.
Yeah, I think it's something like 101 shots they've had on their goal in the first 6 games. That's astonishing. Incredible. Fraser, I've got David Hutchison comment here. We are ranked rotten. Either Russell Martin gets rid of his ego or we need to get rid of him. Has it got to that stage already?
That's incredible, isn't it? Well, I don't know if ego's the right word for it, but as Tam said, he's not going to change the way he plays. This is what Russell Martin does, which surprises me, given the type of player he was, the type of centre-half he was, because I don't remember him being that type of player. But this is 100% the way he believes football should be played. They did it at MK Dons, which was successful. Southampton, it was extremely unsuccessful latterly, having got them up in the Premier League. He's not going to change the way they play. The only thing I would say is, if they were to pull the trigger on Russell Martin within even before Christmas, what does that say for the new regime that came in and took an age to appoint the guy? They clearly went through all the due diligence, pinpointed him and his philosophy as the way Rangers are going to close the gap in Celtic and move the club forward. If they then reverted to just sacking another manager within a few months, it'd be a horrendous start for them, a bit of an own goal, a backfiring start for them. And look,
Well, it would also bring Kevin Thelwell into the spotlight, wouldn't it?
the whole lot of them, yeah.
Yeah, and his decision making, and I'm not sure that. I think there's a tendency sometimes when guys come up from English football that they sort of look down their nose at Scottish football, think it's going to be a stroll, and think if they bring anybody that was playing or managing at any level down south, they'll breeze it up here.
That's why you need a knowledge of the Scottish game, because
Exactly
that
right.
attitude always finds you out. What I would say in Russell Martin's defence is, as you both mentioned, it's very early days. I've said to you a few times, Keith, I am Mr. Pragmatic. I would probably, if I was a manager, I would bore fans to tears, so I'm not one to talk. But this gives me the heebie-jeebies.
If you were a manager?
If I was a manager, I'd be ultra Craig Brown. Craig Brown on steroids, probably Craig Levine on steroids, 10-1-0. But no, seriously, you've got to give the guy a chance to implement this properly. The players clearly aren't up to speed with it. I'm not convinced some of them ever will be. But if this is the philosophy that he wants to bring in, if this is the way Rangers believe they can get closer to Celtic, he needs to be given a lot longer than 2 or 3 months to implement it properly. And as he says himself, there's going to be pain along the way. They've already suffered a couple of dunts already. But
I was going to say, if you take last night's result in isolation, it's one defeat, and it didn't really matter. It was an inconsequential defeat because Rangers were already safely through into the next round, which is where they wanted to be. But I just think I've seen a pattern of emerging over these 6 games, and if anything, I think they're getting slightly worse than they were 6 games ago. And look, guys, I tell you what, I caught up with Scott McDermott a little bit earlier. He was making his way. Obviously, he was at the game in the Czech Republic last night. And here's what Scott had to say on his way home. Have a think about it as well. Scott, I hear you're having absolute nightmares trying to get back from Prague.
I am indeed, Jacko. Planes, trains and automobiles. Wish you were here with me to enjoy the chaos. I've even had to see off Andy Newport. He's literally in that queue behind me going to Frankfurt, and I'm going to Zurich, and then we're going to meet up again at London City before finally getting back to Scotland. So
see, and everybody thinks it's all glamour this thing. And last time I spoke to you, wee man, you were getting kicked out of a stadium.
Exactly.
Pilsden.
Exactly. Absolute carnage.
Right. So about last night, how are you feeling now, having had time to reflect on that performance? I must admit, the time to reflect on it myself. If anything, I'm coming to the conclusion that it was even worse than I might have made it out to be last night. I can't find any real redeeming features apart from the performance of Jack Butland.
No, it was poor, but you know what I quite liked, Jack, also last night when I spoke to you, we hadn't heard Russell Martin's take on it yet.
Yeah.
I actually quite liked the fact that he pretty much called it as we had in the game. I don't think he did try and sugarcoat it. No, he picked out Jack Butland quite rightly. Has been a star performer. He praised these 2 centre-backs for at least trying to be brave on the ball and defending their box well, which they had to do a lot last night. And even wee things like picking out Danilo, who, as I say, wasn't brilliant, but as we touched on last night, he did improve Rangers when he came on. He was an upgrade on Dessers in terms of taking the ball in, being clean in possession, linking it up, bringing others into play. So, as we said last night, those were the kind of wee positives which Martin did pick out. But he also then spoke about the sloppiness, the raggedness of their possession in the first half, the turnovers, the amount of chances they gave up, 27 shots in their goal. I mean, that just can't continue. And crucially, he also said after it that if they play like that in the next round against Bruges, then they're going to come a cropper, because that kind of performance isn't going to get you into Champions League group phase.
But Scott, isn't that kind of performance par for what we've seen so far? Do you know what I mean? I don't look upon that performance as a blip.
No.
I think
you're right.
What we're expected to anticipate.
I think you're right. there hasn't been enough progress. All I'm trying to say is at least he's no trying to pull the wool over MD's eyes. I think previous managers, Philippe Clement, maybe Michael Beale in the past, they would have tried to sugarcoat that more and as I say, try to kind of fool people into thinking it was better than it was. At least so Martin's not doing that. But you're right. The bottom line is, I think where Rangers are at the moment, Russell Martin and certainly supporters would have hoped to be further on in this process. But by this point, and that is ultimately the real concern, because they're now right into the season. They've got huge games coming up after Allo in the Cup. You've got St Mirren away, Celtic, Bruges double header. Huge games where they really need to be at it, and it just doesn't look as if they're at that stage yet. And how he fixes that so quick and gets the level up so quick, I'm not sure. I think it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, that's the thing that I think Rangers fans, the reaction, I thought we were quite strong last night. The Rangers fans have reacted a whole lot more strongly. It feels as if he's almost out of time in terms of trying to win them back on side. And I don't know what winning them back on side looks like from this point, Scott. Obviously, they can't even contemplate an exit in the Cup against Alloa. But as you said, that then tips them into a run of fixtures, St Mirren away and the Old Firm domestically with the 2 games against Bruges. I'll have to tell you, Scott, I'm not confident about Russell Martin's chances of getting the results that he's going to require in order to buy himself any more time or patience.
No, neither am I. At the moment, you're looking at those games and it's difficult to see where Rangers pick up a victory. I mean, the level would have to go up significantly. What he's trying to do and the fluidity that he's kind of craving in terms of their passing and patterns of play and creating chances, that would need to just suddenly shoot up in the next couple of weeks. And listen, it can happen, but it is difficult to see it happen in such a short space of time. So I don't know. He's just got to work with them. Maybe make a few tweaks. I think he's going to have to decide, for instance, what's his best midfield 3, because that's a real kind of.
I think he'll want to get Asgard into that, won't he?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, Asgard and Mikey Moore, you think will play some part against Alloa on Saturday, so it just gives them different options, middle to front, which I think they're kind of crying out for at the moment. So that would help.
You say that, Scott, right? But Tessel's made his way home in a brace after last night's game. We don't know the extent of this injury. It looks as if it's cause for concern. Now, if you're Russell Martin, how's your luck? Because Rangers obviously had been in discussions with AK Athens, possible £5-6 million deal there. The other kind of side of that coin was that Igaman might be sold. Now, if Dessers is out, you've lost your deal to sell him because can't be done. But also, I'm not sure you can then even think about selling Igaman. That's potentially £20 million worth of incomings that could be on the line here as well. And it leaves them in a situation that I don't know where they fund, if they've got an idea about who they want to bring in as a striker. I'm not sure that would be able to happen if Dessers is out for the sort of medium to long term.
But see before there was any speculation about Dessers and Igaman, Jack, in the summer,
they still needed a striker.
Rangers had to sign a striker. I mean, getting into the new season with a new manager, whatever happened with Dessers, Igaman, Danilo, Rangers had to sign a new striker. They were almost immediately linked with Turgeman, the Israeli striker, when he came in. Why that deal's not happened, I don't know. Is it because they expected people to go out and that kind of had to happen first? Possibly. But as you say, Dessers obviously picked up an injury now. They're struggling for goals for open play, whatever way you look at it. I just think they need to go and sign a striker. I mean, Igaman is going to be back in the squad, partly for Saturday. According to Russell Martin, there has been no bids for him, despite loads of speculation over the summer in terms of Lille and others. But he said that he's going to be back in the squad, and there's been no bids, and they're looking to try and get him up to full speed again. So does he suddenly become a big part of it again? And does he become the number 9? Personally, I would doubt it.
Scotty, I'm telling you now, you could have Kylian Mbappe as the number 9 on that side. If he's not getting chances, if the ball's not coming into him, if nobody's creating anything, it doesn't matter. And I think that seems to be a major problem with stylistically how Russell Martin's team is set up just now. They're not creating anything for any striker.
You're right, they're not creating enough. The possession that they do have, I think somebody, I might have got this wrong, I'm sure somebody posted they've had like 68% possession over the 2 legs against Pilsen, but I don't think that really related into chances created, you know what I mean? So that suggests then that there's a lot of possession for possession's sake, which was the big kind of fear when Russell Martin came in, that it might look like that, certainly initially. So, no, it's a problem. And if you're saying it's a problem, and we're also saying they're conceding 27 shots at the other end, then you've got serious issues to sort of, and that goes back to the point we're making, for it to go up a level so significantly.
They have to come from nowhere.
Short space of time is going to be difficult. So he's going to come under big pressure, I think, the next couple of weeks.
Okay, Scott, shortly before you jump the flight, just give us a quick one to this. Do you see problems against Ahola this weekend? Is that a ridiculous question?
I don't think so. I think Asgard, Mikey Moore will come in. I don't think they'll make wholesale changes, a couple of tweaks, but I think they'll get through it. I think they'll at least get a couple of goals, surely.
Right, Scott. Thanks, mate, and safe home.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, pal. What was the song? Same old Alloa always cheating.
Your Alloa managed to beat Dundee, didn't they?
They did, yep. Yep. I don't think they'll have any significant problems there. But guys, before we move on from Rangers, how do you assess, Tam, their chances of getting through into the group stage, into the league phase, as they call it now, and getting past Bruges to get there?
I think they're big underdogs, to be honest. I think, Bruges are a Champions League team. You've seen them at Parkhead last season. I thought they played Celtic off the park in a 1-1 draw. I think they beat Atlanta as well, so they're a good side. They're a Champions League. They're a Champions League level team, and Rangers don't look like that at the minute. But what I would say is you can never write Rangers off in Europe. You can never write them off in Europe. They always raise their game in Europe. The fans behind them at Ibrox in the first leg, listen, they take any sort of lead over there, they've got an opportunity to get through. But at the minute, I don't see it unless there's a big upturn in performances from Rangers from now until then. But I think Bruges are really, really good, strong side, and I think they're strong favourites to get through.
See, before we move on from that, Tam, can you get your mind around that, what it is about these players, this particular Rangers team, and even it's in various various teams, various squads, under various managers, that there's always this common theme that they do seem to enjoy European football. They're just not cut out for the bread and butter. Can you get your head around that? Is it because there's such a foreign influence around it? Or? I
think there's a couple of reasons. I think firstly it's less physical. I think that when you play in Europe, they let you have the ball. We have the ball, you have the ball. It suits their technical players Rangers have got. Secondly, teams come and attack Rangers. Teams will come to Ibrox and attack them. Teams will attack Rangers at home. It suits Rangers. They're not playing against a low block. They're not trying to break teams down. 10 men behind the ball, which they struggle with here. So I think those two things allied with atmosphere in European nights, we're all Scottish clubs. I just think there's a certain electricity about it when you're playing a European game. The fans seem to be more up for it. So there's a number of reasons, but I think physically, technically, it suits Rangers as more technical players. And secondly, teams will come out and attack Rangers. Rangers have got a decent reputation abroad, but there's nothing to be afraid of from European teams when they play Rangers. They'll just think that we'll be better than them, we'll go and attack them and beat them. And that's when they've came a cropper over the last few years, and Rangers have turned a lot of good teams over. So
long shots, but you're not writing them off completely?
No, I wouldn't write Rangers off completely at all. I think Bruges are strong favourites, but bet against Rangers in Europe at your peril.
Fraser?
Very similar to Tam. I think they're considerable underdogs, Rangers, for this tie. Would have been no matter how impressive they'd been in the 2 Premiership games, I'd still have said they were underdogs for this one. But as Tam said, European nights at Ibrox, just strange things seem to happen. Positive things for Rangers, so never write them off. He's right though, those European games suit them, because I think the first goal against Panathinaikos at Ibrox, and again over in Greece, you just saw the gaps open up, and I think it was Gassama bolted into the gap and finished 2 brilliant finishes both times. So it is those gaps that they can exploit in Europe that just don't appear when they're playing Premiership games back domestically. So
right, well,
who knows? Who knows?
That's one side of the Glasgow divide. Celtic aren't in action this week, but their board could do with getting the finger out. Tam, they've got until tomorrow evening to register their squad with UEFA for their own Champions League playoff with Almaty, Kara Almaty. Give me your take on this. If there's not some sort of late rush of activity, they're going to go into it looking really undercooked in terms of where they have been and where the squad sits at now. And they run the risk, in my eyes, of convincing Brendan Rodgers at that stage that, you know, there's little point in hanging around beyond the end of this, his 3rd and final season.
Yeah, listen, I think Brendan Rodgers will be bitterly disappointed at the lack of transfers this summer. I think losing, all goes back to Kyogo, losing Kyogo and not replacing him.
Yeah.
Losing Nicholas Kuhn, you know, and not replacing him. Well, you can see they've kind of replaced him with the wee boy Shin Yamada, who can play wide, but it's not like for like. You know, Kuhn was one of Celtic's best players, a regular starter. They haven't replaced him either. The problem you've got with Adam Ida, you know, and he's persevering with him at the minute. £9 million is you've got to persevere with him. But you've got Dyson Maida, who was the best player in Scotland last season, through the middle, now looking lost on the wing again. Who looks better and more comfortable through the middle. When does he change that? You know, does he drop Ida and play Maida through the middle? Then who does he play left wing?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a real lack of options, I think, in the forward areas. James Forrest, who's been around Celtic for ages, still looks their best bet in the wide areas. So I think if you're Brendan Rodgers, you're looking at that clock ticking down to the deadline closes, and you're desperate to get 1 or 2 attacking options in, and not just guys that are going to come in and be squad players, guys that are going to come in and start every week. And that's what Celtic needs.
But I'm just struggling, Tam. I'm actually struggling to believe, because I've said all along, and by the way, I'll say it again, I do believe that Celtic will spend significant sums before the end of this window. But that's not the point. That's missing the point. The point is that Brendan Rodgers, quite rightly, has said his big ambition for the club is to drive them on and drive up the standards in European competition. And, you know, they're about to go into a two-leg. Now, I know that the Kazakhstan club will be, I think they're 14-1 at the bookies to get through in this tie. And you would expect Celtic to be strong enough. But I just don't get why Celtic have allowed the manager to get into these games that mean so much with so many. I mean, Kuhn, as you said, Kyogo wasn't replaced, but Jota's on a treatment table until at least the turn of the year. I'm completely baffled by the fact that Celtic have allowed themselves to get into this position. Fraser, can you help me out?
No, because it's been a month. I think it's a month. It'll be a month. By the time that game comes round, it'll be a month since they signed Shin Yamada. So that'll basically be 4 weeks where they've only brought in the lone boy from Man City, Simpson Pussy, a guy that's played 6 games. So
Pusey, I think you'll find.
Sorry?
Pusey is the pronunciation.
Careful of the cat, careful.
If I think you are just by pronouncing it that way. But anyway, aye, I've lost track now. So 4 weeks, I mean, that's almost a third of the transfer window where they've only brought in a teenage defender from Man City that's played 6 first-team games. It's like you, I've got a feeling they must have a list of players that they're just ready to press the button on, but why do they always leave it to the last 48 hours of a transfer window? That's when Engels came in last summer. That's when Trusty
But they didn't have the qualifiers last summer,
Fraser. Difference. Exactly.
That's the crucial difference.
Absolutely. So it's far, I mean, I'm comparing apples and pears there, I suppose. It's far more important this season. And like you, I don't get it. He basically having to persevere with Adamida through the middle when everyone can see he needs a wee break or they need an upgrade or somebody to put pressure on him. I was surprised that Nygren came in. From what I was told from people at Norseland, he was the best player in Denmark last year playing right wing. But fair play, Brendan Rodgers has found him a position in the midfield where he seems to be impacting games really well. But
wants him as a number 8, doesn't he?
Aye, but he's a natural winger, is what I was told.
Well, there's John Curry on YouTube saying it's time for Celtic to put Maida through the middle and maybe put Nygren on the wing. He's played there before.
But isn't the right wing? Nygren's very right wing. I believe so. Again, you'd still need Maida through the left, wouldn't you? On the left,
or somebody.
I don't know, or somebody. I know. I can't. Why would I be able to offer a reason for why Celtic are holding off and pressing the button? I don't get it at all. I feel like they must have a whole list of targets. I mean, what do they call it? Who's the transfer doctor? Is it the self-appointed transfer doctor in there? Director.
Fabrizio Romano.
Tidsdale. I mean, it kind of shines a light on.
Scott Burns.
What are they doing? You know, I don't like I'm doing too hard on them because I actually don't know the answer to that question. Why is it going 4 weeks without a serious signing coming into Celtic Park when they're crying out for reinforcements up top? I don't get it.
Tam, I think the thing that's going to trouble Celtic fans is, you know, they're used to it, right? Because they've been in this movie before, and Celtic can be notoriously slow at getting off the blocks. I don't think they were slow off the blocks in the transfer market this summer. They got some I think some fairly decent squad business done. But the big hitters, the ones that Brendan Rodgers believes will be required in order to take them up another level or two on the European stage, nowhere to be seen yet. And I think where I'm going with this is, I think Celtic supporters are really concerned that Brendan Rodgers is looking, going, guys, where are you? And if they're not willing to help Brendan Rodgers, they're going to lose Brendan Rodgers. And that would be, I think, the priority concern for Celtic supporters. They can see this coming.
Yeah, I think the majority of the Celtic fans are now turning their attentions to the board. Whether that be Peter Lawwell, Michael Nicholson. You know, I think they're on Brendan Rodgers' side. They want
Where is Michael? Who is Michael Nicholson, by the way? I mean, he seems to be
pulling the strings.
I know, but do you know, he makes an annual appearance at the AGM, and then he just disappears for 12 months. And I'm wondering where he is right now, because he's got to realise that he's really in danger of damaging the relationship with Brendan Rodgers to the point that Brendan Rodgers says, do you know what, guys? I told you I'd give you 3 years. That's what I'm going to do, but I ain't going through this again.
I'm going to be honest with you, Keith. I think no matter what happens with in this window with Celtic and Brendan Rodgers, I think this is his last year at Celtic. I think he's done his 3 years. I think he'll move on from Celtic in the summer. But you know, he wants to improve Celtic. He's ambitious. He wants to see more quality coming in. He knows they set a high bar last season. You know, Celtic done very well in the Champions League last season. Some would argue they got a favourable draw, but you know, over those 2 games against Bayern Munich, Celtic showed that they can compete with the very, very elite in European football. So, but for maybe a Kyogo, you know, in that last 10, 15 minutes when Celtic were on top, they might go extra time, and you never know. So I think Brendan realises that he's not too far away from really going to compete with the big guns, but he's not going to do it with this squad unless he gets some high caliber players and guys that can get straight into the team. And that is the big issue with Celtic supporters at the minute as well. They look at that Celtic team and they think domestically we've got enough to handle Rangers. That's not a problem. When we get into the Champions League, if we get into the Champions League, it's a big gamble. You know, not bringing anyone in before this game against Kairat Almaty. But when you get in there, Celtic have been scalped before. You know, they were embarrassed before. Last season, they showed that they can compete, and they want to do that again this season. Yeah.
I mean, that is it. Like Tam says, Fraser, gamble, and that is the word. And I've just said there, the bookies have already dismissed Kairat Almaty at 14-1 outside. There's no hopers, really. And in that regard, could Celtic be doing the right thing? Could they be looking at this going, we are going to get past this. We will get access to the Champions League. And then at that point, we can go after the players that Brendan Rodgers might already have identified as the people who can help, you know, move the team forward again. Are we giving Celtic an unnecessarily hard time on this?
I do think they still have a very strong squad, right? But that is a hell of a risky attitude to take. I mean, a second leg in Kazakhstan, you're basically in China by the time you get to Almaty, sorry. That I think if Celtic don't go over there with a 2 or 3 goal lead, that could be an extremely nervy evening over there. What is it, 4,000 miles away? No Scottish side has ever won in Kazakhstan, club
At
or
7
international.
attempts, that's right.
Everything points towards a nervy night out there. So I think Celtic need a 3-goal lead to go over there to be really comfortable. A bit like Rangers last night over in Czech. To answer your question, look, Kieran, I don't think anything they brought in this summer would ever have trumped the return of Kieran Tierney. Let's give Celtic credit for that. That is a blockbuster signing any way you look at it. So well done, Celtic, for that. They seem to have got a gem in Nygren as well. It's just this pressing issue that they need more wingers to cover Jota, basically, who's injured, and they need somebody to push Adamida up top. So that is still a lot of holes needing filled. Yes, they should have enough to get through this tie, but I don't think it's safe to just presume they've got enough to get through it. I think they should have provided Brendan Rodgers with a couple more front men to make sure they get through it, to do the damage in the first leg and to cruise through it.
Tam, what do you think is required at Celtic in terms of recruitment between now and the end of the window? If it's not going to happen before tomorrow's registration deadline, what do they need to go after? Cover at left back, 2 wingers,
Yes.
a striker? What?
Yeah,
How much?
yeah. I think they cover for Kieran Tierney. I think you've seen Kieran Tierney's a top level player, but he's just coming back from not playing a lot at Arsenal. And the intensity in Scottish football is underestimated. I've played with a lot of foreign players and come to Scotland, they're English players, and they're blown out their backside after half an hour. The pace is incredible. Yeah, you need to. A couple of things about Scottish football: you need to be fit, you need to be robust. You need to be guys that can go and play 90 minutes every week, and a lot of people struggle with that intensity. And I think Kieran's just getting up to speed. So maybe cover for him, but definitely the wide areas. Celtic are weak for me. I think when you look at the wide areas, I think they need a number 9 to go and challenge Adamida, and they need 2 wide players. One can play on the left, one can play on the right. And so I would say 4 players, 2 wingers, a striker, and a left back for Celtic before the window closes.
Mm-hmm. A lot of work still to be done, and not a lot of time to do it. So it's just, and I can't help but feel they've allowed this situation to build. There feels like a lot of pressure around Celtic, and I don't think it's necessary because they're in such a strong position in terms of financially, off the field, on the pitch. They're miles in front of everybody else. Although you do wonder if Hearts might be able to throw something down to them this season. Fraser, have you seen enough of this Hearts side to be convinced that they might be able to go a step further than Aberdeen managed this time 12 months ago?
Actually, probably. Is that one I'm just used? Robust. If Derek McInnes's teams are anything, they're resilient, robust. There's a guy that knows Scottish football inside out. I think every one of us knew he was he should have been Hearts manager 3 or 4 managers ago. Actually, that's a bit unfair on Robbie Nielsen, maybe. But, the last couple of managerial appointments, if that was Derek McInnes then, they'd be so much further on now. So it all depends. I mean, Hearts, I think, I'm confident Hearts will finish 3rd. Sorry, Tam. Sorry, Hibs. I think without European football is a distraction, I think Derek McInnes will lead Hearts to 3rd. 2nd, I think depends more on whether Rangers continue to stumble and trip and basically fail to make any progress. That would be Hearts' best chance of finishing 2nd. But look, massive improvements at Hearts this season. Wouldn't even write them off potentially doing an Aberdeen and winning a trophy. And I've forgotten what your question was now, Keith.
I think I've forgotten as well because because you've adopted the Craig Levine approach there and blowed us all to tears, mate.
No strikers. That's the way to go.
No. Listen, I'm just saying, in terms of if anybody's going to put up any sort of competition, I wonder, looking at the state Rangers are in for the time being, you wonder if Hearts might be able to go that next step and just lay it down to Celtic more than Aberdeen were capable of doing after a brilliant start to last season. That was pretty much the question. And yes, you answered with the affirmative. So
yeah, McInnes will have the consistency that Aberdeen struggled so badly for last season. Still won't get near enough to Celtic, but you might find Tynecastle was the toughest away fixture in the calendar for any team this season.
Yeah, right. Listen, we obviously there are 2 well, Celtic have got a squad to put in before tomorrow night. Dundee United and Hibs will both be in action, try to get through into the Conference League group stages. Bit of news out of Dundee United. They're in talks to sign Dario Namu, who's currently on loan. They're trying to sign him on a permanent deal, so it opens up a space in the squad for another loan arrival, and that would be Luca Stevenson, who was there last season on loan from Liverpool. I think that's quite an exciting one for them if they can get that done. But in terms of where this tie sits, I think that was outstanding. The first leg result against Rapid Vienna, and I've just got my fingers crossed. I would love them to finish off the job. Tam, tell me I'm not dreaming.
No, I don't think you are. I've been pretty impressed with Dundee United this season. I think there's been a large turnover of players, a lot of foreign players, much documented. A lot of people are not happy with it. But see, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where your players are from. You know, as long as they go and do the business for the club, who cares? And I've been pretty impressed with them. I thought they looked lively against Falkirk. You know, and they probably should have won that game. And then going to Rapid Vienna, you know, who are, you know, pretty storied European team. You know, good record in the Europa League and Conference League in the last few seasons, and thoroughly deserving a 2-each draw. You know, played really, really well on the night. A real threat in the forward areas going forward. Solid defensively. I didn't fancy them at the start of the tie. I thought Rapid Vienna would be too strong over both legs, but gave themselves a great chance tomorrow night. You know, Tannadice, full house. You know, going back to the glory days of Jim McLean. You know, that atmosphere will be crackling, and Dundee United have got a good pedigree in Europe as well. And I think they might nick it. I think they might, with the fans behind them. I think they can go and make it a right glory night for Dundee United with a wee 2-1 win.
Well, I'm hoping so, Fraser, because we're talking there, good things happening at Hearts. You know, Dundee United, I mean, what a monument. I think that would be terrific, and we've been moaning for years about our teams creating such a fuss about, you know, qualifying for a crack at European football season after season and then getting papped out the thing when all the serious big boys are still on the beach. So it really would be brilliant if Dundee United and Hibs could make the most of the starts they've made over these ties and finish off the job. Because if we can get our clubs playing regular European football, at whatever level that might be, first, second or third tier, it can only be healthy for the Scottish game in general. Where are you on these ties? I'm going to come to you, Tam, obviously, about the Hibs situation, but give us your view on both Hibs and Dundee United just now for us.
Different views on both, and I just hope I'm wrong. I would love to see 5 Scottish teams in the group stage. I don't know what that would do for our desk, Keith, how we'd deal with that, but that's a problem further down the line. I'm confident.
We need to start hiring. We'll give you Tam a game.
Aye, why not? Give him some real work. Look, I just fear Dundee United peaked last week. As you say, that was an incredible result, an incredible effort. Both ends of the park. I thought they were really defensively brilliant. I loved watching them defending their box. They looked organised, and they were really they were clinical up front. I like the look of the boy Zach Sapsford. Tam, I'd like to get your opinion on him, but he looks like a natural kind of instinct for putting the ball in the net. Doesn't even have to look at the goals kind of thing. Just knows where he is. First time shot, bottom corner. I like that kind of stuff. And his goal in the previous round at Tannadice was fantastic. I just fear that maybe Rapid Vienna might get a bit of a jolt for that. Dundee United maybe peaked. They definitely tired at the weekend against Hearts. That was another really difficult 95 minutes for them. I just fear for Dundee United, and I hope I'm wrong. Whereas Hibs going to that tie Easter Road in such a commanding position with a stronger squad than Dundee United. David Gray rested a few players at the weekend. Came away with a 2-2 draw. They maybe tired a bit as well in the second half. But I think they're ready for this one. I think they've got the kind of know-how, the experience, the organisation and the goal threat to go and stretch their lead and just finish the game off on Thursday night. I hope so, because I'm covering that one.
Oh, good. We'll get you on from Easter Road before the game tomorrow then, Fraz.
Oh, sorry, I'm not actually. No.
Get our money's worth out you. Tam, I mean, that was a brilliant first leg result and performance. I actually called it. I expected Hibs to get a result, and I think I tipped them to get a win away from home. I think they'll finish off the job with another win. And again, that's great for our coefficient. But how impressed were you, or are you, by the way Hibs are looking this summer, and what do you think lies in store for them, both in Europe and at home, over the course of the campaign?
Yeah, listen, I think they're just continuing their great form for the second part of last season. I thought obviously the first part of the season was a nightmare for disaster for Hibs.
Yeah.
A lot of individual errors were killing the manager. And fair play to Malky Mackay, the board, Ian Gordon, they stuck with the manager, and it's paying dividends now. He looks a really comfortable, composed manager at that level. His tactics have been spot on in all 3 European games so far. And going to Partizan Belgrade, 2-0 result, fantastic result. Real intimidating atmosphere, going to Belgrade and getting a result. Job's not done yet. I seen they won 7-2 at the weekend. They obviously scored 6 in the last round against the...
They're an aggressive team, aren't they?
Yep, they're a very, very young team. And you're going to get a lot of ups and downs with young players. And if they click on the night, they could be dangerous. But I think when you look at Hibs on the whole, there's just a confidence about them in a minute. They can go and finish the job. What they need to do is cut out the sloppy mistakes. I think if there's one big thing, it was at the weekend, 2-0 up, Rocky Bashiri, sloppy ball into the middle of the park. They got up the park, score command, whole complexion, whole atmosphere in the stadium changes. With that one
goal. It looks home and hosed at 2-0.
Yeah, home and hosed 2-0. One wee bit of sloppiness. And then Kamalak's back in it. They come out second half, get the goal 2 each, and then they probably should have won the game. So Hibs need to just stop that sloppy mistake. Be focused, be confident. And if they get the first goal with that support behind them, I think they'll go and coast it. But if Partizan get the first goal, then I think it's tie on. But I still think Hibs will go through.
Yeah, good. I hope so.
Who would they get, Tam? Who would they get if they go through?
Legia Warsaw, I believe. AEK Larnaca beat them 4-1, so they'll play the losers of that tie. So I think it'll be Legia Warsaw.
Legia Warsaw, eh? You'll be chuffed about that. Seem to remember you in a Hibs shirt, Tam. We're partial to a poll.
Who?
Yeah. And you're a Hibs.
No touching, Thomas.
Yes, I was, aye.
Let's not go there.
Oh.
Well, look, let's just turn the conversation back the way. Mark Fairfield, regular contributor, and always a bit of a doom and gloom merchant. 99% sure Aberdeen will seriously let the country down. And you know what? He might have a point. I mean, obviously, we would love it to get a full set, wouldn't we? But Aberdeen are they've got off to a kind of sluggish, unimpressive start. So I think the best we can hope for is probably 4. I think Mark's probably right. Would you agree, guys? It's going to be a big ask.
Yeah.
To get
4.
5 in.
I'll go 4. I fear for Dundee United. I hope I'm wrong.
You think Aberdeen will do it though?
Well, they're guaranteed group stage. Sorry, was the answer in group stage? I mean, Aberdeen are guaranteed the group stage, aren't they? So,
sorry, of course they are. Aye, of course they are. Sorry, that's my mistake. Yeah, I think obviously Mark's talking about when they actually get into the group stage.
Aye. 4 in the group stage. So sorry, Dundee United. I hope you prove me wrong.
I think just putting this right as well.
Sorry, I think Fraser made a great point talking about Hearts and not being involved in European football. That's an enormous advantage. I think you're going to see Aberdeen struggle. Possibly Dundee United if they get through. Hibs playing Thursday, Sunday. You've seen a little bit of that at the weekend. Where both
it's a big load, isn't it?
Both teams are winning at half time and both blew a gasket in the second half and got beat after one midweek game. So that's where Hearts have got the huge advantage, I think, over the rest. And they will be pushing, I think, Rangers for second place and have third place probably tied up, especially if Hibs get into the group stage as well with Aberdeen.
Right, brilliant, lads. Listen, Tam, thanks for joining us. Fraz, thanks for joining us and put the kettle on for an appearance from Easter Road tomorrow. Everybody, thanks thanks once again for all your comments. Absolutely superb stuff as usual. And we'll be back at 6 p.m. tomorrow to do it all over again. So thanks, everybody, and good night.